Hello, everybody. Welcome to Naughty Pine and welcome to the Craft Beer Republic. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks for hanging out with us. And most importantly, thanks for drinking beer in like real life with everybody. It's kind of nice. My name is Greg. You probably know this girl right here. This is Brittany. She is the owner, the brewer. So if you don't like the beer, come to her, not me. I'm kidding. It's the best beer in town. The owner, the brewer, the badass. So thank you to Brittany for having us. Real quickly, this is episode 300 of Craft Beer Republic. So thank you. Thank you. I'm very stubborn. So thank you all for coming out and celebrating with us. I thought there's no better way to celebrate than one of our favorite people and one of our favorite breweries and new breweries too. So anyways, like I said, I'm Greg. I appreciate you guys all coming out today. More importantly, Brittany's here. We're going to talk about your beer. We're going to talk about your background. Mm-hmm. We're going to drink some beer.
Lots of beer.
We're going to see how badly we can embarrass her. She is, like I said, the owner, the beer maker. Unfortunately, she is a Packers fan.
Sorry.
Yeah, but she's an absolute badass, and she makes some amazing beer. So everybody give it up for Brittany. Yes, I'm very excited to be able to trick her to coming on for our 300th episode. I was going to ask you a couple of questions and then have you talk about the first beer and then a couple more questions. I feel like we should probably get into the first beer first.
Yes.
I think you need some lubrication, some hydration.
It's a gross word.
Some liquid courage. Is that less gross? So anyways, I hope everyone's got their beers out there. Let's just go off script here and kick things off with the first beer in our flight. Please tell the fine people out here, what the first beer is, okay, and then tell us what we should be sniffing and tasting and all those fun things.
So first beer is our Sturdy-B Pils. That's the Bohemian Pilsner. Biggest seller. My favorite beer on the board, pretty much the only thing I drink. Bohemian Pilsner is slightly softer in bitterness than like your traditional German Pilsner, which most of you out there know. We use only Saaz hops in it, which is true to style for Bohemian Pilsner, whereas German beers, people play around with a lot of the different German noble hops. I use a really soft water profile with very low sulfates to kind of keep that bitterness down so that the malt can shine. And then the yeast strain I use is Bohemian Pils strain, so it's like 100% true to style.
Makes sense, yeah.
And it's delicious.
It is delicious. It's so crushable.
I forget sometimes. I'll take a sip of it and be like, oh, yeah.
Secret, Brittany doesn't drink her own beer very much, but...
I don't drink that much. I'm like the brewer that doesn't drink.
How do you QC all this stuff?
Well, I do that, but...
Good, glad to hear it. Yeah, this is fantastic. This is super crushable. This is that summer, I mean, it's every day. It's California, but it's that summer light, little bit of hop towards the end to clean things up, but not like bittering or anything like that. Just a nice, clean, clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about, can I get nerdy for a second?
Yeah.
Talk about your water profile. Are you doing RO or?
Yeah, so I do almost pretty much 100% RO. I strip the water down completely and then I build it back up with some calcium chloride, some gypsum, and then lactic acid when needed. So, and I do it for every beer. So every beer has it's a complete own water profile.
Nice. There's at least 4 people out here that know what that means. And then, yeah, 4. But I love it. That's really fun to recreate the water profiles of, say, Germany or wherever you're trying to brew. Really gives it that authentic.
Yeah, I feel like it distinguishes the beers from each other a little more. And when you get bigger, it gets a lot harder to run your RO that hard. I'm small enough to where I feel like I can manage it without like changing my filters every month, You
haven't broken it yet? Is that
no, not yet.
Yeah. Who fixes it if you break it?
Me.
Okay, so be gentle. All right, so first beer down. Everybody good with the first beer? Do we like? Yeah? Give it up for the Pilsner. I know everyone's like, where's the hazies? Just kidding. Not that kind of place.
Hey, I made one, sort of.
True. All right, so what I was going to say before we had beer, but we had to mix things up. For everyone that's here in person for the podcast, there's questions question cards. If you have a question For Brittany, please feel free to come up while we're talking, grab it. It won't distract us at all. Write down a question. You can hand it to me. You can hand it to my wife over here. You can hand it just about anybody. It'll make its way up here. We love questions. We are going to find out about Brittany's background, about where she got started, all that good stuff. So why don't we just kick things off? Let's start from the beginning. Where did your parents meet? No, I'm just kidding. Let's get...
That was a one-night stand.
Well, it worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Let's get philosophical. Why beer? How did it all begin? Why?
Why? I mean, because in my 20s, I like to drink like everyone else.
It's a good start.
No, I bought my husband actually one of those more beer, like beer in a box kits for Christmas one year. And
the one that looks like a football?
No, it was like this sad excuse for a pot and like a bunch of malt extract that we threw in the trash. And like, I don't know, he like dove down the rabbit hole of beer. And I was like the kind of person where I was like, all right, I'm there, I'm in it. And then like 4 hours into the brew, I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to watch TV. I'm cold. I'm tired. I'm
tired
done.
Of cleaning.
And it wasn't like I liked the process of reading about the beer styles, creating recipes. But then like halfway through the brew day, I was just like, no, everybody will tell you, don't invite me to homebrew with you. I won't come. I hate it. I'm spoiled. I don't have my hot water. I don't have my chemicals. I don't have my trench drain. But then when we got the opportunity to do our brewery in Maui, that's when I like became a complete obsessed nerd with beer and was like, yes, I love this.
Before we get to that, so when did this all begin? When did you start hating homebrew? Is this like college or
yeah?
Or high school?
We'll say old enough, legally old enough to drink.
We'll say that for the record.
For the record.
Yeah, come ask her after
Yeah, no,
the
my
show.
husband's dad's best friend was a homebrewer, so he handed down all of his homebrew equipment to us. So at one point we had like this ridiculous,
$4,000.
we had like this 10-foot tall gravity-fed brew house in our backyard that people were just like, are they cooking mess? What's going on here?
That's only on
and that's
Sundays.
how it started.
Yeah.
So
I have a piece of your homebrew equipment in my
you do.
homebrew, so, yeah.
Almost everybody in this county has some variation.
Anybody
of
else have some of Brittany's homebrew
Like
equipment?
everybody has taken bits and pieces of it over the years.
It still works.
Yeah.
What was your gateway into craft?
Our brewery in Maui. So we got an opportunity to basically help 2 other couples who knew they wanted a brewery in Maui but didn't brew beer. And they literally were just like, will you come do this for us? And we're like, yes. What do you want in return? And they're like, nothing. You just basically, like, it was like sweat equity. We got a share of the company by building it. So we bought over Maui Brewing Company's original Lahaina brewery space, turnkey. No, stripped it out completely.
It's never turnkey.
No, it was not turnkey. And that's how we got into it. So we were flying like red eyes out Friday after work, building up the brewery, and then flying red eyes into work Monday morning. And we were doing that every other weekend for like a year and a half.
Holy crap. So you weren't like living out there for a while?
Yeah, no, it was just out of a suitcase.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. My longest trip was like 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
So it was so much fun.
I did not realize that is that is a lot of work. That is insane. What was, as far as like the first craft beer that you started drinking that kind of got you into the scene? At some point you went from PBR to something.
Yes, I drank a lot of PBR. I lived back and forth between here and Washington. So in Washington, PBR was like the beer. The first craft beer that I drank was Protector at Greg. And I was sitting out the bar with Justin. Michaela was there.
Okay.
Because she was always there.
Well, yeah.
And we were talking to Matt. And I was watching Chris and Joe brew. I was like, God, it'd be sick to work here someday. I want to do this for a living. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. Like, I was in my 20s when you're just like a wanderer and you don't know what you're going to do with your life.
Do a little this,
but I was
a little
convinced, like I had Protector and I was like, this is what I want to do.
And so, speaking of being in your 20s in college, what did you actually go to college for?
Pre-med. Exercise science and sports medicine at Cal Lutheran. And then I decided I really hate touching people's bodies. So I was like, this is not going to work. Like, oh, no, cringe-worthy when I had to, like, touch ligaments stuff. I love dissecting the animals, but I hated touching live human beings.
The unwashed masses?
Yeah, so
that's hilarious.
That was undergrad, yeah.
So at the time you guys are opening up the brewery in Mount, please say the name of the brewery.
Kahola.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's still
way.
up and running. We actually sold our share of the company in July to put into Naughty Pine.
Oh, nice.
So
At this point, you don't have any like formal brewing education, right?
I'm halfway through my master's in.
I'm sorry. At the point of opening up.
No,
Cola.
no, I did not. We
Yeah, now I
were
know you're a
literally
nerd.
home brewers that people took a gamble on. So
Ballsy.
yeah.
All right. Well, I finished my first one.
Yeah.
Did anybody else finish their first one?
Mine was in
Should
a
we-
shot.
Brittany's just been gone for like 13 minutes. We've only been going for 10. What's next on the flight list here?
Next, we've got our Rye Amber Ale. That's like our staff favorite. Second
My
highest
favorite.
seller. Yes. This one, you're going to get like a super malt forward flavor when you first drink it, but it's going to finish really dry. I have a rye malt obsession. So actually more beers than you would think on the board have rye in it. I just don't advertise it because people see it and they're like, no.
They get weirded out by it.
They get really weirded out.
Yeah.
This beer was the first beer I brewed. I wanted to put a lager in the brew house first just because of, who I am. But supply chain issues, we couldn't get anything, hence where the name supply chain deficit came from. And I was like, all right, well, amber's what I can get. I'm all ready to do it. I go to order the hops. Everything's out of stock.
Of course.
So we had to switch out all the hops for substitutes. And then when it came out, it was just like, nah, I'm not going to change it because it's so good.
Right.
So yeah, it's very malt forward. The rye gives like just enough of the spiciness, but it's not like an overpowering rye beer. The hops I use are like kind of like the herbal, more woodsy hops. And then I added in Pacific Gem for just a hint of like blackberry at the end to kind of complement the malt sweetness. But yeah, it's really good. It's my
really
second
good.
favorite on the board for sure.
What's your first favorite? Oh, the pills.
I mean, come on, I did a
sorry.
whole TikTok about it.
That's true.
Took 8 hours.
Time well spent. Yeah, this is fantastic. You get that rye and the sweetness on the nose. Same thing up front. You get a lot of that malt sweetness, but it's very well balanced out with not only the hops but also the carbonation. You did a good job on like not undercarbonating this, and that keeps it very light on the tongue.
Yeah, I'm notorious for I like my beer very overcarbonated. Like
Same, I don't-
even the brown when we get to it, it's higher carbonated than you'd probably expect.
It's how I prefer it. I'm not a huge fan of nitros. Usually they kind of sit on my tongue too long, and I love the more carbonated beers. This is the one I always order when I'm in here, though the brown one is quickly taking that spot.
That one, yeah.
I was going to ask you this after the first one. I'll ask you it now, even though it's way out of order. Tell the fine people out here, what's the difference between a lager and a pilsner?
Nothing. Is that a trick question?
Sort of.
No, a pilsner is a type of lager. Lager has to do with how the yeast ferments, and you'll get a lot of people that will be like, yeah, I like lagers and pilsners. I'm like, pilsner's a lager. Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing.
I
I try to be respectful about it because like people don't know. I
Sure.
mean, like I've had people say, yeah, I like IPAs and I like ales. I'm like, right, IPA is an ale. Oh, it is? Yes.
Right.
So I think that's a lack of maybe brewers like me that are introverted and don't like to talk to people.
Could be.
Not doing enough beer education behind the bar. So yeah, no, it's the same thing.
The reason I decided to ask is I recently was telling somebody, they were talking about lagers and pilsners. I said, all pilsners are lagers, but not all lagers are pilsners. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what? I said,
Yeah.
yes. Mind blown.
It gets confusing.
Yes. All squares are rectangles, not all rectangles are squares.
That's
Sorry.
a really good way of putting it. Fine. Too complicated for this late in the day.
Yeah, I know. A couple more beers before we get all philosophical about that. All right, so let's go back to Cajola a little bit. You're contacted by these people who wanted to take a shot on some crazy homebrewers. In fact, you didn't even like to homebrew. How did that all go down? Like, how did they find you? I mean, were they in your backyard watching you cook meth and decided that you probably knew how to brew beer also? Or?
No. My husband's a physical therapist. That's like his day job. So it's that he met them through that venture.
Oh, okay.
Can't legally tell you how. You can put the pieces together.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they had tried a lot of homebrew from other commercial brewers in the county and in LA and up north. And they just really liked our beer. And one of the wives was like, I'm not moving to Maui unless you get them on board.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, we got nothing to lose. We didn't have a kid at the time. We didn't own a house. Right. Like, I was working as a nanny, so like my job was pretty flexible since I decided not to use my degree for anything.
Right. Degrees are silly.
I use it now with beer, but yeah, so it was a little wild, but it was a lot of fun. We got to the point where we were completely packed and ready to move, and my sister-in-law got pregnant, and it was just one of those things where it was like, it's going to be so hard to get back and forth, and like we just didn't want to miss out on family life, so we decided to stay back, and we hired a brew team, and we ran the brewing operations from here for like 7 or 8 years. Wow. It was intense. It was a lot. We cycled through a few brewers and finally settled on a really good brew team now, and from what I hear, they're doing great. We haven't been back in a while.
So how did that work? Are you over here like designing recipes and sending them over?
Yes, exactly. We're designing the recipes. For a long time, we were even homebrewing a lot of them and then tweaking them before sending them out. We did quite a few flights back and forth, but that eventually stopped too because we just both got really busy. And then I got pregnant. That changes everything.
Kids these days. A lot of people here probably know you from your time working at that place up to 23.
Yeah.
Did you love lagers as much before you worked at Integrin?
So, no.
Are we allowed to say that?
Yes. Okay. No. So, yes, I did. The very first beer we brewed in Maui was a German Pilsner. So, it's always been like our go-to beer when we go somewhere. But when I started at Integrin, we were still brewing like Saison and Lunch Pail and Protector and like all these beers. And then like a month or so in, Chris was like, hey, what do you think about brewing like a Helles? I was like, yes, like, let's do it. And then it just like became an addiction, and we just went down the rabbit hole hard. As you know, they're full German beer now. So.
Right, I mean, secrets, but they used to have an IPA on tap.
Yeah. When I told him I would quit if he ever took Protector off tap. He did, but I was far enough into the job. I was like, oh, I'm not going anywhere now. Like, I'm good. I was like, I mean, I hate you for this. I love Protector, but like, that's fine. But my love of lagers definitely grew working with him.
I think one of the most, I don't want to say pissed off, but like annoyed that I'd ever seen you one day is I walked into Integrin, and she looked so mad. I was like, what the hell happened? She goes, they made me brew the IPA. You were so upset.
I was not happy at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Well, you spent a lot of time at Integrin. What was one of the most important things that you learned or you took away from, working at the lager house?
I guess attention to detail. I mean, Chris and I share the same like OCD-ness of like, this is the way you do it and you don't deviate from the plan kind of thing, which is how I am here. Like, even my poor bartenders have like very strict ways I like things, even like down to where you set like water bottles and stuff. But I actually learned a ton of mechanical, because everyone knows Chris is a mechanical engineer.
Right. He's like set up half the breweries in the area.
That more than anything. Like, there's so many times where things go wrong in construction and things were going wrong, and I could resort back to things that I learned from him and use it to troubleshoot and fix problems. So.
And I'm sure you learned no taking the shortcuts when you're making lagers.
No.
They take time for a reason.
Yes, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I don't like when people take shortcuts on lagers. Like, I'm true to form when it comes to like fermenting it properly with the right yeast, the right temperature, the right amount of time. I don't have a filter, so my lager sits a little longer to get the clarity out. I do serve colored beer regularly now, which is not something I intended on doing. So that was definitely like a deviation from my like hardcore like clear beer ideology. But I was absolutely set on having a lager when we opened, and since I couldn't brew Pilsner first, it wasn't going to happen unless I brought out Keller beer. Then I brought out Keller beer, and everybody drank almost the entire 7 barrels of Keller beer. And then it's just been like this thing where like people lose their mind if I don't have it on tap.
That's funny. Tell people the difference between a Keller beer and a lager.
So Keller beer is where Keller beer is basically young, unfiltered, unlagered lager Pilsner for me. It's also known as Zwickel beer, which basically is like the Zwickel valve on a tank. It's the brewer's beer. It's what we taste when we sample these beers day in and day out. So it kind of gives you like a little insight to what we go through.
And also Google's Wickel. It means something dirty in German.
I'm sure it does.
All right. Before we get anywhere else, let's
Next
move
one.
on down.
Next one is the Alligator Skin, which is our pink Boots Brew that we brewed for International Women's Day. This was the most stressed out I've been on brewing a beer. A, because I had so many people here. B, I had no voice as I almost have now.
It was slightly worse than today, yeah.
It was very much worse than today. And I've never brewed a Belgian IPA. So to me, like this bill, the way we balanced it got changed so many times because I was so stressed out about it just turning out funny. And it's A, a style I've never brewed. B, with a hop blend I've never experienced because you just get this blend in the mail and you have no idea what it is.
Don't open it too soon.
So when you first taste it, it's got the Belgian characteristics of like the kind of spice and slight bubblegum flavors, which come partially from the yeast, but partially from, surprisingly, the hops.
Right.
What hop is it? There's one hop in it that kicks kind of like a bubblegum flavor.
Is it the Idaho Gem?
I think so, because I used Idaho Gem in a couple of my other Belgian beers.
And that's like the highest percentage of that blend, I think.
Yeah, and it's talus and laurel, which is awesome.
Yeah. Really good blend this year.
There's
Very
a few of them,
blend.
yeah. But I felt like I used pills, oats, and of course rye. So I feel like the spicy rye really complemented like the cloviness of the Belgian yeast. And then the oats kind of gave it like this full body kind of flavor, but then it finishes a little more dry. So it's not like, it looks like a hazy. I make a joke about it all the time, but it doesn't taste like a hazy. It finishes really nice.
Yeah.
But I feel like you just get a lot of clove, a lot of spiciness, a lot of body. And then that rye malt, it just complements like the raw unfilteredness of this beer. It's unfined, it's unfiltered. It's just, this is what came out of the tank.
Yeah. And it's perfect. And
it surprised me. It turned out great.
And I know somebody in the front row here that does not love West Coast IPAs and does not love Belgian beers.
I hate Belgian beer.
But loves this. I don't like it either.
I brew a lot of them and they turn out really good, but I hate Belgian beer.
Now I know why you don't drink your own beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier to make a beer that you don't like than it is to make a beer you love.
You don't drink all of it?
No, I won't drink.
I mean, is that why it's easier?
No, I feel like it's much easier for me to pick out and nail the flavors because I don't necessarily like them. So I know how to get them.
It's funny you say that. I knew somebody who worked at a brewery. They were part of like the BJCP and they did the judging at GABF. And they would always choose the categories they hated. Yeah. Because they were able to pick out the off flavors. They'd always do like the smoky beer flavors because they hated smoky beers, as do I. And they were able to pick it out. All right. So this is the Pink Boots. By the way, thank you for having all of us over for the Pink Boots.
That was so much fun.
That was so much fun.
Despite the fact that I couldn't tell you guys anything about what was going on the entire day.
I mean, you were talking, just nobody could hear it.
No, there's nothing coming out.
Yeah. And there was a lot of like wrench throwing. I think you beat up your brew house like 7 times that day.
Yeah. We've been having some issues with it. Most of it's fixed now.
Yeah. So if there's any dings, anybody working on like car bodies, that'd be great. I wanted to ask you when we were still talking about the Keller stuff, how was your beer from last night? Brittany had a power outage, and she had just brewed a lager.
Oh my God, yes. No, everything came back on, and we stayed for a while, and nothing went off again. So
crisis averted, everybody. The lager is fine.
Yeah, last time the power went out, nothing was fermenting, so it was fine. It actually blew a like solenoid switch or something on my chiller. So that was like detrimental. My chiller was out for like 3 days. But last night I had fresh Pilsner fermenting. I was like freaking out. Kylie texted me and she goes, we can control the music for the tasting room on our phones when we're at home. So like we'll get on and randomly turn on like fart noise radio.
Oh, Wiley likes to do that.
The tasting room is full.
Yeah.
And like
you ever
mess
get any
around.
sexy sax in the brewery? Because I know who's responsible for that.
We put on some ridiculous like superhero song the other day.
Never Gonna Live.
So she texted me last night and she's like, "Are you like messing with us again?" I'm like, "No." And she sends me this picture of all the emergency lights on. I was like, "Dude, we ain't that high tech. I can't turn the lights off from my phone." I was like, "But tell me the power's not out because I have beer fermenting." She's like, "Yeah, power's out and nothing's on." I was like, happy birthday, let's go back to the
Yay.
brewery. So no, it's fine. Everything
Good.
came back on and the chiller did not break this time.
Crisis averted. Yeah. All right, so you've opened a brewery in Hawaii, then you worked at a brewery, and now you've opened a brewery in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
Are you crazy?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't even believe that I was doing it.
Neither did I.
No, yeah.
I've seen other local breweries not open for a long time.
It was weird. It was just like one of those things where I was running so fast and so hard at Enegren that I didn't really have time to consider doing it again. And my investor, I have one silent partner, one investor, that's it. It's just me and him. He had approached us many times in the past, and I was like, no, I'd be dumb to leave this place. Like, come on, it's Enegren. And then that 2 weeks hit where like the world kind of stopped, and it was just like, dang, like my kid's almost 4. I'm just like, I knew where my path was at Enegren, and it was a great path, but it was like, is this what I want? Or do I want to take this shot? Because this was like his last offer. This was the last time that he was going to present it. Wow. And so I told my husband, I was like, you know what? You get the logistics down. I knew what I wanted, which was full control. You know, I'm not going to go down this road again if I have to have too many cooks in the kitchen like we did before. We've been there, done that. We've learned our lesson. Sure. I said, you get the LLC done. You get it all in writing. You get all of that side of it squared away, and then ask me if I want to do it. Because, like, I didn't want to get my hopes up and start, like, getting all these thoughts in my head and then have it not work out. Because, like, even with Maui, like, we decided not to move. It wasn't an easy decision. Like, I was super stoked to move to the islands.
I would have been, too.
So I just didn't want that.
I'm mad at your sister-in-law because of it.
I know. But I love my nephew. And then he came, and he's like, all right, like, here it is. Read it over. Like, this is it. It's now or never. Yeah. And I made the decision, and I told Chris the next day, and
clearly you said no.
I said no to comfortable. I don't like change. It was very stressful. And then, like, in the middle of pandemic. So then, like, I quit my job, and I'm building a brewery, and I'm just, like, alone all the time. I was like, this sucks.
I mean, you had a fireplace.
I did have the fireplace. It was me and the fireplace for, like, 10 months. And some construction workers once we finally got into that. But yeah.
Well, it feels like you opened this place in record time, even in a pandemic.
I did. I'm a pain in the ass.
Yeah. How did you get all that done so quickly?
I'm persistent. Actually,
who hates you now because of it?
The whole city of TO. No, just the water district. No, the city of Thousand Oaks was actually like super pumped for me.
Wow.
They helped me.
Tired of Westlake getting all the beer business?
I don't know. They helped me, like, because I looked at like 27 spaces before I found this one. Wow. Put in 2 letters of intent, and then it just like the landlords were just being like so unreasonable. And they actually pointed me in the direction of this specific unit because they knew the landlord and they knew the property owners and stuff. And then it was just like, I was home all the time. So the second they asked for anything, I had it back to them within like a half hour to an hour. And then I was just insanely persistent and pushy.
Well, you have to be.
And it, like, we hit delays. I mean, the whole entire process of how you would normally submit to build a business changed because of the pandemic. So, like, I went into it knowing what to do, and then everything was ass backwards. Right. I mean, they laid off almost everybody at the city. So my plans actually got mailed out to Orange, California. So then you've got people that aren't from your city looking at your plans, telling you can't have certain things because they don't allow it in their city, not understanding that it's allowed in yours. It was a total chaotic nightmare. And then because of germs, you had to submit an email for a locker, wait 2 to 3 days for a locker assignment, put your plans in the locker. They had to de-germ for 24 hours in the locker before the planner picked it up. Sure. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Then, same thing. He had to submit for a locker, put it in the locker, and had to de-germ for 24 hours. It was bad. And then the water district laid off everyone, so regional took over the little tiny water district in Westlake, which was a whole nother chaotic mess. They didn't know what a brewery was. So I had to go through 6 weeks of telling them, like, there's nothing going down the drain. Like, everything goes in the tank or I've done something super wrong.
Right.
And like
if you're dumping beer down the drain, you're losing money.
They just weren't getting it. And finally they were like, we just don't understand how what's in the brew house gets to the drain.
It's not supposed to.
I like turned into Yoda and I was like, calm down. So I drew a childlike photo of 2 square tanks with a circle for a drain and a line for a trench drain and an arrow that said exits here. Like, literally, it looked like I have it. I'm going to frame it at some point.
Please.
And they were like, okay, we'll send it up to upper management, which was the same answer I got every other day. And 3 hours later, I'm like, so what's the deal? And they're like, well, we haven't heard back. We'll contact you in a couple days. I was like, no, you're going to contact me by 5 p.m. and I'm pulling the plug on my project. And you can tell the city why they're not getting a brewery. Within 20 minutes, I had somebody on the phone. Hey, you're totally approved and passed. Just pay your fee. I was like, 6 weeks, and you made me turn into that person to get approved for this? Like,
but it worked.
It was horrible. I felt so bad, but it did work.
And then your crayon skills are amazing.
Yeah, it's a cute photo. I'll find the picture at some point. So yeah, it worked out. And then my planner was awesome, and he felt so bad for that whole process that he went into the city on his day off, signed all my plans, and I was into construction like the next day.
That's fantastic.
Then I started pulling down the ceilings.
Step 1.
It was a lot of fun.
So why is there a fireplace in the middle of this?
I don't know. There was no fireplace. There was a fake mantle when I moved in.
Okay.
And I asked the planner if that could become a fireplace. And he said, well, you got to open the wall. If they left the gap, which it kind of looked like, judging by how big the break room was at the time, which is now a bathroom, I kind of guessed there was a gap. Busted the wall open. Sure enough, they left the whole coated gap. They just never put in the gas and the flue. Wow. So I was like, yes.
That worked out well.
Sold. That's like what sold me on the place. Like, we had the storefront windows. All the greenery outside was super cute. And I saw the fireplace and like freaked out. I squealed like a little girl. I was so excited. And then they said I could have a patio, and I was like, all right, this is definitely a spot.
Yeah. Was there a must-have when you were looking at a space?
Outdoor seating was a must-have. Yeah.
Middle of the pandemic, yeah.
And location, I mean, we looked at a lot of spots that had the right size, but then it was like in a weird spot where it's like, I wouldn't drive back here to look for a brewery. So.
Creepy.
Yeah. Creepy vibes.
Did COVID change any of the plans as far as like, obviously you wanted an outdoor space, but it's like, I didn't want an outdoor space originally, but COVID came along. Anything changed because of that? No,
I always wanted a outdoor patio, especially once we got the alley down at Enegren. I was like, yeah, this is dope. Like, I need outdoor space. The only thing was the tasting room I would have liked to be bigger, just because I was worried, like, what if they go back to 6 feet apart? I can stick like two tables in there, 6 feet apart. I mean, my tasting room is small. Right. But I couldn't find a building that had a big enough tasting room that was already fire sprinklered. And so I had to cut, like, that tasting room could have been so much bigger, but the cost to put sprinklers in would have killed me. Oh. So we downsized and settled for outdoor patio. It's California.
Thanks, California.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on, should we
last beer?
Check out our last beer here? Sorry if anybody finished their third beer. This is my current favorite.
The brown, really?
Yes.
It's my least favorite.
It's my most favorite.
I'm very happy with it. I am not a British brown. I'm not a brown ale person in general. I just feel like a lot of them get too overpowering with that brown malt, and it gets way too like nutty and cringy. And I'm not a huge fan of the style, but I feel like ours turned out pretty balanced. Yeah. It's not super overpowering with the nuttiness.
Well, you got enough hop in there too.
I mean, yeah, you get like that toffee nuttiness when it starts, but then like the addition of the caramel malts and the pale chocolate kind of cut through, and you get a little bit of sweetness, but then it finishes dry, so it's not like cloyingly sweet. It's not super thick on your tongue. We used California ale yeast, actually. We used our house strain, which I feel like gave it a little bit more of a cleaner fermentation profile. It's one of the only beers on the board, actually, that I didn't use. Like, I didn't go with, like, a London brown ale and use London ale yeast because, well, a lot of reasons, but mainly because I had ale yeast, and I was like,
supply chain issues?
Yes. It's like a mid-range ABV, so it's not super heavy, but it's not super light. And then
It was
very
like
low
5-ish?
hopping. Yeah, it's 5%, like
Yeah.
right in the middle, like dead center. And then, yeah, nugget for bittering and a little Styrian at the 5-minute just to give a hint of kind of that flavor aroma. And yeah, I think it's super well balanced.
It is very well balanced. You get a little bit of chocolate up front, a little bit of sweetness, but not like sticky.
It's not like insane.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm getting diabetes from drinking this. It's just a little bit. I can't get enough of it. A lot of breweries claim to make a good British brown, but then it's sticky. It's more like a stout.
Yeah, which I know a lot of people that love that. I've gotten the feedback of like, man, this is like clean and balanced. And I've gotten the feedback of like, oh, I wish it was a little more like to it. So it's just
Don't listen to
flavor
the haters.
preference. But
Yeah,
this, if I were to pick the type of brown ale I would drink, this would be it.
this is money. Don't
Somebody bring
change
me a
thing.
Pilsner.
Can we get a pills? Do you think they can hear us up there? Can we get a pills from the front, please? Pills for the brewer.
They totally can't hear us.
Okay,
It's okay.
it was worth a shot.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap things up, last thing I want to do is rapid fire questions. But before we get there, this place is up and running. You guys have been open for, literally 6 months, like 2 weeks ago, right? What's next? What's your next project?
Patio expansion at some point. It's a big project though, so it probably won't happen for another year or so.
Are you gonna take over more area? Or?
It's up to the city. It was actually my landlord's idea. He figured out a way to where we could wrap the patio around the front, take up 4 parking spots, but move them parallel so we don't lose the parking, because that's what the city gets the most upset about.
Yeah, city
even
loves
though there's
parking.
free parking up and down the entire street.
Right.
So that's like the next big thing that I want to do. I need another fermenter. So yeah, it's gonna go right there. So all that stuff's gonna have to go bye-bye.
Sure, I totally believe you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't want to get much bigger in the sense of like distro. I'm in a few places, but it's not. I did the big distro at Enegrin. It was awesome, but just not what I want to do.
Too much.
It makes it a lot. Yeah, it makes it a lot harder to just be able to wake up in the morning and be like, this is the kind of beer I want to drink, so I'm going to order ingredients and brew it today. Like when you're doing a lot of distro, the people you're distributing to, they have expectations of what they want, and they don't care if you want to change it,
Right.
A small unit somewhere else would be nice for storage. Obviously, people are sitting on my storage right now.
Right. Hey, get out of here. You're sitting on our storage, everybody.
But yeah, I want to stay small, but I would like to beef up our patio a little bit.
Any new beer styles coming up that we should know
Yes,
about?
Belgian Quad drops on Friday.
Oh.
Yes.
Are you excited for the Belgian
Yes.
Quad? Oh, okay.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge Belgian fan, but the double and the quad is like where it's at for me. Just more of the dark fruits versus like the part of the Belgians I don't really like is like that bubblegumness. Mm-hmm. I'm not a bubblegum person. But yes, I'm very excited for the quad. It's coming in at like 10.5%.
Nice.
It's good.
A couple of those will set you up straight.
Yeah.
Speaking of the I was going to ask you when we were talking about alligator skin, the bubblegum, a lot of bubblegum in that hop blend. Mm-hmm. I am so used to bubblegum being an off flavor, especially in like an IPA.
It can be.
It confused the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
So I've had some of the other pink Boots blends, and it's caught me off guard at first too. And then I
Poseidon's was
taste all
very
of them, and then
bubblegum
I'm like,
forward.
no, it's definitely this hop blend. But it tripped me up at first too,
Yeah.
because I was like, is this like something wrong with this beer, or is it the hops?
Did we do this on purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I had Poseidon's first, very bubblegum forward, and I thought, ooh, hope this is on purpose. And then I finally got to smell the hops. I was like, oh, this was on
it's
purpose.
in there. You
So
can smell it a lot if you smell
very
the raw hops.
bubblegummy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to rapid fire, what is your number one or top 3, whatever you feel like, brewery pet peeve? What annoys the hell out of you when you're working?
Like watermarks on the bar top. Oh my God, I lose my mind. Like the second they pick up a glass to take it away after we've served it, I'm like there with a rag. And I can't stand it. Top 3, what else? Oh, I cannot stand when the chairs aren't put back. Like I hate when people walk in and like the chairs are all scooted out because people were sitting there and they left, and then we didn't get them scooted back in before they showed up.
Sure.
Like I'm super all about like tidiness. Like I want you to come in and look like it's like ready for you, not been used and abused and left dirty. What else? I think those are like my two main ones.
That works. Were you a hall monitor when you were in school?
No. I was the emo girl in like the fishnets and the shorts and the Converse that didn't talk to anyone.
But you put your chair back.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, I grew up in a very strict household. So, yeah. I try not to be like that at home. Like at home, I will tidy up, but I don't expect it out of, like, I try not to be too on my kid about it because I want her to, like, live a chill life.
Not be shaking in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. And I totally forgot to ask you, talk about real quick the inspiration for the decor inside.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Peaky Blinders on Netflix and anything 1920s or like that era of life. Like if I could go back, I would be like a freaking mob boss, dude.
The wife and I actually went back and watched. We've never seen it before because we're like, we need to see what she's talking about.
Yes.
And you nailed it.
Yeah, we're the Naughty Pine Piners, which comes from the show. And I love it. I'm just obsessed. Like, I always envisioned having a brewery like this, but never thought it'd really happen. And sometimes I'll walk in and be like, shit, this is mine. Like, I kind of forget sometimes that I don't just work here.
Nailed it. All right, rapid fire questions. First thing you think of. You've done a few of these already, actually.
Have I?
Yeah, not all of them, just a few.
At the last podcast?
Yeah, I think that was
so long ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
What's your favorite beer tender?
My what?
Who's your favorite beer tender?
Oh, here? Oh, shoot.
I'm joking. Definitely not Andrew, if you can hear
Definitely
us.
not Andrew or Reese.
Yeah.
And it can't be Chris because, you know, he took the weekend off and who does that?
Oh.
So I guess Kylie is just the vote by default.
By default. You getting a raise, Kylie.
Actually, Austin, she's the best beer tender. She will walk around.
She's a hustler.
Dude, she hustled the other day. She made $4 out here off of fake cardboard beers that she made. And glasses of water that she was selling to customers.
This is her daughter, by the way.
This is my kid.
Not an actual beer tender.
My kid, my 4.5-year-old, set up a bar out of boxes. And all of a sudden I look out and I'm like, what's this line going here? I was brewing. And I see people start handing her money. I'm like, oh God, what has she done? And sure enough, she's selling cardboard cutouts of beer glasses and water.
Smart. So smart.
She made more tips than the bartenders that night.
Can't blame her. What's the first beer you ever drank?
First beer I ever drank, PBR. It was like 15.
Doesn't have to be good. You mean 21, right?
21, absolutely.
What's the first beer you ever brewed?
A oatmeal stout.
Do you have a favorite style to brew?
Pilsner, my Bohemian Pilsner. Cans
or bottles?
Cans.
Favorite beer and food pairing?
Czech dark lager and like chocolate cake.
Can we get a Czech dark
Seriously,
lager?
I'm trying. If people would stop drinking so much Pilsner, I could put a Czech dark lager in the tank.
I'll stop entirely.
That is like my... It's like my black and white, like Pilsner and Czech dark lagers are on the same level for me.
Maybe I'll like help fund the extra tank if you'll put a Czech dark on
The
top.
price of those has gone up stupid.
Yeah, it's like $5.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday night. What are you drinking?
Gin and tonic. No, just kidding. Pilsner.
Fair.
Yeah.
What is your beercation destination?
Well, the last one I did was Colorado, but I really want to go to Germany. Obviously, I've never been.
Never, ever?
Never been out of the country except when I accidentally drove into Canada and got in big trouble.
Did you really?
I was with my grandma.
Hold on, story.
They got pissed. We were on a family vacation. She took us to 13 states in 2 weeks, and we got lost and drove into Canada. And then we turned around and we're coming out, and they like searched because we didn't have passports.
Sure.
So then they're searching the car and they're asking where we're from and why is this old lady here with these two teenagers? Like, it was intense. I was like, dude, it's just Canada. Eh?
Yeah. Did you eat any poutine or anything?
No, it just was like...
That's a shame.
It was two 13-year-olds and like a bunch of those Baskin Robin flavored candies that they used to sell. Like, that's all that was in our car.
Your grandma's a rebel.
Yes.
What's your favorite outside, so non-Naughty Pine beer?
Put me on the spot. Nighthawk at Enneagram.
I can't blame it. I had that at my wedding. It's one of my favorites, too.
It's like our favorite.
What's your favorite non-beer hobby?
Non-beer hobby? Playing guitar, but I haven't done it in a long time because my hands. But music in general.
If you guys stick around after
right
the show,
now,
we're going to get a live concert from Brittany.
Yes, no, but Mitch Bradford is playing. No, right now, because I can't do guitar, I go to emo night every month with Monica.
That's true. Monica over at
So
Pedals
emo
and
night
Pints.
is like my non-beer
Yes.
obsession. I go be a child
Still
for
have the
4
nail
hours.
polish. And,
Always.
Yeah. Favorite guilty pleasure beer? This is where we find out. I mean, we talked about PBR. Kind of on the
Guilty
last time.
pleasure. I don't know if it really counts as guilty pleasure, but I can see the fucking can in my head.
That good one.
It's from Germany. Bitburger.
Oh,
Dude, I drink so much Bitburger. It's not even funny. Like Whole Foods has it, and they usually get it fresh, and I'm always in there buying it. And they're like, "Don't you make beer down the street?" I'm like, "Yes, but I love Bitburger."
you're like, no, I don't know what you're talking
You got
about.
to get in the can because if you get the bottles, they're all skunky.
Are they in the green bottles?
No, they're golden
brown?
white with gold writing.
Fancy. And then finally, what is your favorite word or slang for being drunk?
Trash.
Nice and simple.
I am like true white trash child, so it's okay for me to say it.
White trash getting trashed.
Yes.
Brittany, thank you so much for letting me embarrass you.
You're welcome.
And making you speak in front of people. This is
Come back in another 5 years, maybe.
What are you doing in June? We'll be back.
Oh
She
no.
makes amazing beer.
She does make amazing beer. Everybody give it up for Brittany. For those of you listening at home, Naughty Pine Brewing can be found at 766 Lakefield Drive, Suite A. That's Westlake Village, technically Thousand Oaks. NaughtyPineBrewing.com, NaughtyPineBrewingCo.com. On the grams, Naughty Pine Brewing, Facebook, NPBC Beer, Twitter, Naughty Pine Beer.
Let's see what it's a long story.
Long story as to why she didn't get all
I
the
couldn't
proper
have the
handles.
word naughty in any of the handles.
Oh, is that what the
I
problem
got
was?
flagged big time. I even got flagged in Indeed when I tried to hire bar staff.
Really?
We don't promote hiring. I can't remember the term they use.
Like
but basically
adult workers?
prostitutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Should have gone with the KN.
I know.
You go with the NAU and you get flagged.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for letting me
Thank
embarrass you. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out. I was going to say, I hope you enjoyed the beer, but I know you enjoyed the beer because it's phenomenal. Brittany is already running to the other side of the brewery. You can find us at craftbeerrepublic.com and Craft Beer Republic on the socials. Thank you all so much. I hope everyone stays very well hydrated. And on that note, good night, everybody.